All right, I want to thank you guys for being here, both online and in person. Tonight's talk is why we're always tired, brain fog, and fatigue. So I'm going to tell you the multiple things that can cause it, and then I'm going to go through the number one cause of it, but it can be the other ones that we're going to be talking about. If I have enough time, I may be able to get into a second one, but I can't guarantee that. I'm going to go really in depth into the number one cause of being tired and having brain fog and fatigue, but there are other ones that are involved. My hope and my prayer is that you all gain some knowledge of what's going on, not just a diagnosis, not just a description. And what you may notice is when you go to your medical practitioner, they tell you, you tell them something, and then they tell you it back in Latin, and then that's what you're diagnosed with. Like you come in and you have foot pain, and then they call you metatarsalgia. I'm like, well, that's nice. You just told me what I told you. What's going on? Why do I have it? So my goal here is to help you understand why you actually have what's going on. Why would we have some fatigue? Why would we have brain fog and so forth? So what we're going to talk about and can look at is there are major things that we want to be aware of. If we experience either of these two things, it lets me know we have a problem with blood sugars. The number one cause of being fatigued or having brain fog is blood sugar dysregulation, and it doesn't mean you have diabetes. It just means your blood sugars are not being regulated correctly. So if we experience either of these two symptoms, it means we have a problem and we need to get it taken care of. Number one, do we get tired after we eat? Number two, do we get energized after we eat? If we have either of those symptoms, it lets me know we actually have a problem. So what are the two things we don't want to have happen? This is feedback time.
Being tired after feeling sleepy or extra energetic.
Exactly. So from the crowd, we said feeling sleepy or getting extra energized. That's exactly right. Those are the two things that if you, your friends, or anybody have, it lets me know there's a problem. So where do we chronically see this? Would any of you like a cafe latte or a cappuccino after you have dinner? So literally we see it chronically at restaurants where people eat and then we need a little coffee pick-me-up after they eat. That's actually telling you that person is prone to diabetes. If you have to have a pick-me-up after, it tells me they're prone to diabetes. What? Okay. The other one, though, is the one where you get energized. You feel like Hulk after you eat. That actually happens because you're chronically low. Hypoglycemia. And it's very common. It's actually the ones that I see the most in my practice because you're caught by the Western medicine of being too high. But most of us don't know being too low is just as bad. Being too low is just as bad. But the thing is, we're told if it's not above 100, everything's okay. But we need to understand the low number. If it's below 85, it's bad. So what a lot of people are told was, well, if as long as it's not below 55, you're fine. That's because at 55, you pass out. So we want our blood sugars to be above 85 and below 100, and that lets me know we're okay. So what we're going to go into is what actually happens. When we eat food, what actually happens? What are the steps that lead to us either being too high or too low? What are the steps that will actually drive us towards the things that we don't want to have happening? So when we eat, what we want to see is this. So this is sugar. And then we got insulin. So when we eat, we want to see sugar go up and then go down and be okay. And we want to see the exact same thing. Insulin go up and go down. That's exactly what we want to see. And in an optimal world, this spike actually doesn't go above 100. But most people, it is going to go above. But if it can come down and stay in the normal range, we're okay. That's an optimal world. What do we usually see? Not this. What we see is insulin doing some other things. So we'll see insulin going like this. And being really, really, really slow. So if insulin comes out really, really slow, that tells me that the pancreas is fatiguing. The pancreas has issues. We're not pushing out the hormone that's supposed to help us absorb the sugar in. But if we see the sugar, now if insulin does that, then what we're going to see, because the sugar is going to follow what insulin does, then we're going to see this. We're going to see sugar come up and then come down. And because we're getting a longer decrease, our sugars are staying higher for a longer time. What I need you to understand is a lot of people have diabetes, a lot of people have blood sugar problems, and a lot of them don't understand how bad it is. It's literally a neurodecay. It's neurodegeneration. That's what blood sugar problems are. It causes severe neurodegeneration. They cause what's called glycolated end products. You go, well, what does that mean? That means, well, I'll give you an example of a glycolated end product. So what is the test for blood sugar indication? To tell you if you have chronically high blood sugar, what do we usually test?
A1C.
Hemoglobin A1C, exactly. What is that actually testing? It's testing red blood cells and how much sugar is coating them. That's literally what it's testing. So if you have that red blood cell, that donut, and it's completely glazed over, then your A1C gets higher and higher and higher because it tells us you have more blood sugar coating your red blood cells. Your donut is coated longer. So that's red blood cells. But what about the proteins that make neurons? If they get coated in sugar, they won't work. What about the proteins that literally every other part of your body, the sugar will start glazing it. It will start covering it. And then what happens is your liver, your detox system, and your kidney system, they start fatiguing because they can't get rid of all these broken down, all these pieces of body that are sick. They're glazed. They're toxic to you now. And that what also will happen is they will combine. So proteins will combine to sugar, and they will make new antigens. That means new things your body has never seen before. And then it will think it's a virus or a bacteria, and then it attacks it, and then you start attacking yourself. That's crazy, right? And it's all because your blood sugars are not responding correctly. So what we want to do is make sure that when you eat, your blood sugars go up and then go down. We don't want to see them come up and gradually come down. And that's why when we see numbers and we hear people talking about blood sugar numbers being above 100, when you're fasting, that tells me that literally your body's not absorbing sugar. That's all it means. So when you're not eating food and your sugars stay above 100, it means you have too much sugar in your system. That's all that test tells us, which tells us you're not absorbing. So we want to make sure that we absorb the sugars correctly because we need them for energy. So what happens is we take in the food, we chew it up, and then it goes into our stomach. The first place where you can have blood sugar problems is if you don't have enough stomach acid. So if you don't have enough stomach acid, you will not break down the proteins correctly. And then what will happen is the protein will move down the system, and it literally will just continually, if it's being digested correctly, keep leaking out sugars. It's not being broken down and being sucked in correctly. It's now leaking out gradually, and it can actually cause interactions where your body will now attack whatever food that is. So that's how you can get autoimmune if you don't have a proper gut. I think I've gone over that before with you guys, right? So if you don't break down the food correctly, then your body sees it as a virus or a bacteria, and then it attacks it, and then you get an autoimmune to it. The easiest one to understand is related to this exact thing. So let's tell you what happened with my grandfather. So my grandfather, when he was a child, he got a fever. This was in the 30s. And when he got a fever, his mom said, well, he needs a little protein. Let's give him some milk. So they gave him milk when he had a fever. And then within 3 days after that, he got type 1 diabetes. So what happened? Well, what happens is, and most people aren't aware of this, there's a thing called molecular mimicry. It means the proteins in the dairy can actually mimic the proteins of your pancreas. So they look the same. The exact protein that it mimics is actually casein. Casein is the one that your body reacts to. Now, casein is found in all milks that are from animals. The totally off fact, but I find it interesting. Guess what animal has the highest casein content?
Cows.
Any ideas?
Cows.
Cows. It's actually not cows. It's what a lot of people are thinking is a really good thing that you should feed people.
Goat.
Camel. Camel has the highest casein content. Camel milk will actually make you more prone to diabetes than any other milk.
Wow.
So if you're sick, don't eat it. If you have an allergy to dairy, all other ones you're going to react to. It's because the casein is the same in all of them. So, oh well, if I give my baby or if I give my friend goat's milk, maybe it's better. No, they all have casein. Goat's milk, cow's milk, walrus milk, all of them have casein in them. And that's what we react to. So what happened with my grandfather is he was sick. His immune system was already primed up. He was trying to attack all the viruses. He drank dairy. He had a leaky tummy. Some of the casein got through. The B cell or the white blood cells came in and said, this is bad, and made an antibody to it. And that antibody mimics or looks exactly like casein, looks exactly like your pancreas. And then his immune system turned on and attacked it. And that's how he got type 1 diabetes. And his immune system was working so well that it destroyed his pancreas. Isn't that crazy? So that's type 1, and that's just by eating casein. And so you want to make sure your gut is working correctly so you don't have those issues. That's one way to get it. There's other ways to get it, but that's the easy one to prevent. So what do we want to not have brain fog issues from and issues? We want to make sure our blood sugar doesn't go up and stay up too long, because that will actually cause chronic inflammation. High blood sugar will cause chronic inflammation. If we have any part of our body that has been damaged, chronic inflammation will show it with spikes. So if you want to know if you have inflammation in your body anywhere, what happens when you get sick? Do you get brain fog? Do you get knee pain? Do you get low back pain? Do you get headache? What do you get? And that tells you where the chronic inflammation is. So you get the fever, your body uses inflammation to fight off the bacteria or virus. So if you're somebody who, when you get a fever, you get brain fog, that means you have chronic brain inflammation. Big red light. Maybe you get low back pain. That tells me we have chronic inflammation in the low back. Maybe knee pain, joint pain. We don't want to get any of that anywhere. If we do, it means we got to put out that fire. And wherever that is where the problem is. So who were the people that died when they got COVID? There was two very big subgroups. It was heart disease and obesity. That's because they're both chronic inflammation, as well as diabetes. That's a chronic inflammation as well. Those are the people that got it, because with COVID, you boosted the inflammatory response. It went overboard. And then wherever the inflammation was hanging out, that's what got attacked, because it just flared it even more. So we want to put out that inflammation. That's the thing that kills us. That's the thing that takes us out. So think about yourself, your friends or family members, and go, okay, where do I hurt, or what happens when I get sick? If you're just tired all over, that's fine. But if it's, I always get brain fog, or my right elbow always hurts, my left knee, or whatever it is, that's where you got to put up the fire. That's where the chronic problem is. Because it should be just all over. It shouldn't be one area is worse than the other. This is making sense? So if we have the brain fog, that's telling me we have chronic inflammation in the brain. The number one thing that will cause that is a head injury. And if we don't put out the fire, then that will literally cause the chronic brain inflammation, and it will cause the chronic brain fog. So what is common that I'll see is people go, yeah, well, I'm perfectly fine. Then I eat, then I get brain fog. That's telling me brain inflammation with blood sugar imbalance. So what do you got to fix? The inflammation in the brain and the blood sugar imbalance. So how do we fix the inflammation in the brain? We can do intermittent fasting if you are a adrenal or gonadal type. Highly recommend it. It's really good for you. If you're a thyroid and you have any autoimmune or stuff like that, I wouldn't recommend it as much because it's harder on you. Yes.
How do you tell?
What body type you are?
Yes.
So how do you tell what body type you are? It's where you hold your fat. If you're not sure, we have a test. So if you are a female and you're always been really busty, you're probably an adrenal or a gonadal. If you're a female and you always have bigger hips, you're probably a gonadal. It's also based on what foods you like. If you're a thyroid female, what you'll see is your fingers are longer than your palm. Most females in this office are either thyroid, that's about 90%, and the other ones are adrenal, and then we have our token couple gonadals. So if you look at my hand, you see how my palm is equal to about my fingers. I'm an adrenal body type. My fingers are really big. That's adrenal. If your fingers are long and more slender, that's a thyroid body type. You can also look at the foods that you crave, and this is what I look at. So if you're a person that you go to a party and there's a meat and cheese board, or there's a berries and fruit board, which one is the one that you go after? Or like a candy board. If it's the candy, you're probably thyroid and fruit. If you're more adrenal or gonadal, it's going to be the fat and the protein and the salt. That tells you which one you're going to go after right away. Now, once you get your blood sugar spikes and drops, then everybody goes after sugar. But the first beginning is going to drive you. That's easy ways to know, but if you really want to know, we can test you. I can look at you and we can usually tell. With thyroid people, they're usually more slender, smaller bone structure. And gonadal and adrenal are usually bigger bone structure. But you can test them and you can see, and this tells us how your metabolism works. I'm glad you brought this up because if you are, say, a gonadal or thyroid person, the hormone that's literally driving your blood sugars to go crazy is glucocorticoid. So what is that? That's another way for saying cortisol, glucocorticoid. If you can't read it, it's okay. I got Dr. Writing. So cortisol gets spiked when you're stressed, but it also gets spiked in gonadal and adrenal people when you eat things that stimulate your adrenals. So myself, if I want to get really hungry, feed me things that stimulate my adrenals because I'm an adrenal body type. Feed me salt, feed me red meat, feed me dairy, feed me alcohol, and I will be ravenously hungry. Because what happens with somebody who is an adrenal body type person is you stimulate the adrenals and the cortisol will spike, which will then spike your sugars, which will then spike your insulin and pull you way down, and then you get really hungry for those carbs after. So that's why if you eat the dairies like the pastas and stuff, and then you're hungry after, you're probably going to be more likely that gonadal or adrenal body type because you're spiking the sugars. And what goes hand in hand with it, and if you want to see if it's you, is you can actually measure your blood pressure and it will go up. So your blood pressure and pulse rate will go up when you eat those foods. So if you look at the body types and the diseases that go with it, what you'll find is that the people who are prone to heart disease are the gonadal and are the adrenal, and the people who are prone to autoimmune or immune function issues, thyroid functions are going to be more like the thyroid body types. So the disease processes literally are based on how the body's metabolism works. Yes.
What's a thyroid body?
So a thyroid body type is it's you.
Yes.
So if you want the answer, it's you. So the question is, what's a thyroid body type look like? It's the lean person, the skinny person that when they were young could eat anything and not gain weight. And then when they do gain weight as they get older, they start putting on weight around their tummies. So what happens is when you're that adrenal person, you're that stockier person that really loves that charcuterie board, you eat the meats, you boost your sugars, and then you get the cravings for the carbs after because you just dropped all your sugars down. So for the adrenal body type person, it's really hard to lose the weight, and they usually gain the weight more in their chest and their arms. It will go to abdomen, but it's usually chest and arms, and then it works its way down. That person, the way to stay away and not have those blood sugar spikes and drops is to limit when you eat those fats and that salt and that alcohol and that dairy, because it'll spike them. They are really good. You can eat those heavier things later in the day, but you don't want to eat a lot of it or you're going to have that ebb and flow. The easiest way for you to know if your sugars are not under control is to get a continuous glucose monitor. We have a paper that can tell you the 2 places you can go. And it's the easiest way for you to find out if anything is going wrong with your blood sugars. What is important about blood sugars is the number one cause of Alzheimer's and dementia is unregulated blood sugar because it causes that glycolated end products, which means sugar attached to things in your brain. And then your brain starts falling apart because the neurons won't work correctly. So if you want to make sure your memory works as you get older, it's regulate that blood sugar. If we can't control it, then those are things that we literally need to help ourselves get under control. It can be diet. If diet isn't enough, we can diet and supplementation. If that's not enough, then literally this is when I would recommend certain medications to make sure that you have blood sugars under control, because blood sugar is such a big issue and it can lead to every problem that your body can have. It's hugely detrimental to your body. Most people, if they're in early stages, can modulate it though with diet, exercise, and so forth. What we like to do is help you get the cells to absorb the sugar correctly. So when we look at the cell, I want to just use this. This is from Apex Energetics. There we go. So when you look at the cell, what you can see is when you eat food, it comes in, you digest it, and then it comes down, and it attaches to these insulin receptors here. Those insulin receptors then tell your body to make what are called GLP-1, which are GLUT4 receptors. Sorry, not GLP-1. That's the pancreas. GLUT4 receptors, which literally are pathways that allow your body to absorb sugar in. If these receptors get overstimulated because you eat and your sugars stay too high, they actually get less sensitive. The other thing that most people need help with, and is the easiest way to help people with blood sugar regulation, is to actually get them to have not too much triglycerides in their body. But triglycerides happen from having too much glucose. So this is another reason you get tired after you eat. So if your blood sugars are high, what you'll see here is blood sugars are high, but if it doesn't work correctly, then your liver will actually take in the sugar and chain it into triglycerides. So if you have high triglycerides, that tells me you have a blood sugar problem. If you have high cholesterol, it tells me you have an inflammation problem. That's really important because they're not the equal. Triglycerides tell us blood sugar, cholesterol tells us inflammation. But if blood sugars are high, they can have those glycolated end products and cause inflammation. So what we want to do is make sure that you make enough of these. Well, there are certain nutrients that make you make the receptors. chromium, vanadium, and zinc. And there are certain nutrients that make you make the actual GLUT4 receptors that make the sugar come in, and that's vanadium, chromium, alpha lipoic acid, and magnesium. All of those things will actually make you absorb the sugar. You go, well, doc, that's a lot of stuff. Where do I get it? That's called glycine. That's a product that we sell. So you take it, it sucks the sugar in, and it makes it work correctly. What's the symptom? Why do people get tired after they eat? It's because when they suck the sugar in and it doesn't actually get absorbed, it gets all transferred into the liver. And then the liver has to turn it into triglycerides, but it takes a lot of energy to do that. So when it does that, it sucks the blood sugars down and you get tired. And that's why you get that hunger 30 minutes to an hour after you eat. It's literally because you're turning it into triglycerides. So what do we need to recap? What's the big thing we need to understand? If we get tired after we eat, it tells me we're prone to diabetes. If we are chronically energized after we eat, it tells me you have low blood sugar. Both are bad because if you don't absorb the sugar and it stays high, that's diabetes. But if you don't have enough, that's hypo, and they both get the same symptoms. Too low and too high will cause the exact same symptoms and the exact same problems and the exact same chronic inflammation. The ladies that I commonly see in here are the ones that are hypo. Oh, your sugar's not high, so you're fine. I'd be like, yes, but you're chronically running at 80 or 85. So that means you don't have enough sugar for your brain, and your brain starts shutting down. So why do we get brain fog? Our sugars are too low. Why do we get brain fog? Our sugars are too high. Why else can we get it? And I didn't go over this, but these are the other reasons. Oxygen levels being too low, we don't make enough energy. Thyroid levels being off, we don't make enough energy. As well as testosterone and estrogen levels being off. So this is why as we age, if we don't modulate all of these things correctly, then what will happen is we'll start getting brain fog, we'll start getting tired, we'll start losing muscle mass, and we'll start losing cognitive ability because we're not protecting the most important organ in our body, our brain. We can't see it, so we look at everything else, but it's literally what's going to determine how healthy we are. Making sense? Cool. Do we have any questions? So why am I tired? The number one reason is usually blood sugars. If we go down it more, it could be oxygen, it can be thyroid, but 9 times out of 10, I won't pass go until your blood sugars are under control. If you want to know if they're under control, invest the $50 if you have an iPhone, get a continuous glucose monitor, and know. And then you'll know what foods actually do to you because you'll see them spike. You see it go all the way up to 260, 300, 150, and then you see how quickly it comes down. And then you'll find out how certain foods affect you. And it's not the monitor telling you have diabetes we care about. We don't care about the monitor app that it comes with because that's trying to tell you how to modulate diabetes. We know you want to stay between 100 and 85. And if you stay in that range, you don't have inflammation. If it goes too high or too low, then we know we have major issues. Does that make sense? So what's driving it? It's usually blood sugar. What else can be driving it? Like I said, oxygen, testosterone, thyroid issues. Those are all reasons we can be fatigued and have brain fog. But take care of the sugars first. And the quickest way to figure it out is to get that blood sugar monitor and then use it as a tool to figure out what you do after you eat foods. And then you'll find how you react. We had one lady, she told me that, and she would work out chronically, and she would eat a cookie and her sugar went to 300. And then she ate nuts and a cookie and it stayed perfectly stable. So it's literally simple things like that, depending on the person. Or if it's me and I ate the nuts, it'd probably go high first because I'm a different body type than her. She was a thyroid. So know your body type to know how to eat for it. But if you really want to know, like the body type will let you know general guidelines, but the continuous blood glucose monitor tells me exactly what you're doing. Oh, I ate this, I flared, I ate this, I went down, what's going on? And then we'll know. And if you still have problems with that, then we can dive deep and do food testing where we can actually see if you have allergies to foods that will cause you to go into a cortisol release because you're having an allergic reaction. It's just not big enough where you're having like an anaphylactic shock or anything. And that can be spiking your blood sugars as well. And we've seen things as simple as people are allergic to carrots, potatoes, quinoa, wheat, different simple things that most people think are healthy that are actually driving their problems. So have the sugar under control, and your fatigue 90% of the time is going to go away, and your brain fog is going to go away. So I want to thank you guys for being here. Think of a friend or family member who gets energized or tired after they eat, and you know they have a blood sugar problem. Let them know that you want to get that helped. Because if you don't, that progresses into bigger issues later on. If all they get is tired and their lab tests are normal, that means you can fix it. But if they get tired and the lab tests are starting to get off, it gets harder and harder. And eventually you get to a point where the system is so broken, you cannot reverse it. So you want to fix it early before you make too many bad things. So think of that friend or family member and understand that's something they need to get help with, and you can actually get it fixed if it's early enough. Thank you guys for being here. Have a good night.
Does cheese